Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Good evening and welcome to Hilaal Live. My name is Faraz Patel. I would like to thank you, the viewer, for staying with us. I'd like to thank my colleague Lukman Shadrack for taking you through the first part of the show. Now, the Kwazulu Natal government has called on President Cyril Ramaphosa to send the South African National Defence Force to help assist communities that were affected by severe weather conditions. This request followed the recent heavy rains that hit parts of the province. The inclement conditions damaged infrastructure and several people have lost their lives. Joining us now is the Kwazulu Natal branch of the Red Cross Society, and they, of course, have been hard at work to try and assist some of those that were infected. I would like to bring in Siyabonga Hlatswayo. Siyabonga, good day and thank you so much for joining us here on Hilaal Live.
Good day to you and the viewers at home, and thank you for having us.
It's an absolute pleasure. Siyabonga, I mean, when we talk of KwaZulu Natal and we talk about inclement weather, it's a province that really is not just getting any respite with regards to especially what happened last year in those devastating floods. And of course, again, we saw it this past weekend. Not as severe as last year, but really bad conditions that have been occurring. Talk to us about the work that you guys as the Red Cross Society have been doing just to try and, help mitigate for the people that have really been affected by this.
Well, yeah, the situation is quite devastating and it is quite worrying looking at how frequently we are seeing these extreme weathers. And what we have been doing in order to ensure that we mitigate the impact of these disasters is we've been hard at work trying to engage communities, because the more we can empower communities, sensitize communities about disasters, as well as natural and human-made incidents, the better they can prepare themselves to respond and also to be aware of what to do in case any alerts, as most the South African Weather Service would share, that we are going to be faced with so much of extreme weather. They would know what to do. But also, we've also been strengthening our capacity to be able to disasters. We've been training our staff, our volunteers, ensuring that we do have equipment to respond. We do, on our stores, we do have sufficient relief to provide to the communities whenever they are affected. As it is, we received, we had been receiving alerts, and we've been
we seem to have lost Siyabonga there. We're going to try and connect to him in a bit. Siyabonga, are you still there? Siyabonga?
And one was in Central, which is Durban, and the other one was in Uku, which is Potchefstroom. From there, we commenced conducting assessments and mobilizing relief items to distribute to the communities.
Yeah. Siyabonga, education is important, and I think both you and I can agree. And part of course, the work that the Red Cross Society is doing is to try and, alert the people, especially those residents that are going to be affected. The weather warnings, it comes out 24 hours before. But most importantly, because it's a province that has experienced floods, there's a certain level of experience that a lot of the people have had with regards to this. Have you seen that in those communities also?
Yes, mostly communities, what I think had been exposing them mostly to these hazards is that people, I think they've been taking them very lightly. They've been taking things very lightly. So even if warnings are shared with people, like people would not even take notice of them or not take the necessary precautions and measures to ensure that they were safe. But from what happened last year in April, people are very cautious, and actually now you find them appealing to us and disaster management teams that can they be maybe evacuated, can they get assistance. I think that is due to the experience that we had last year. Also us as well, the Red Cross Society, other partners, as well as the disaster management teams. We have been trying very hard to be proactive and react in time so that we don't miss and be delayed or be late with our relief interventions right before the incidents happen, as when they are happening and after they are happening. Because really, the one thing that we do not want to see happening It's losing lives, people losing their infrastructure, mostly losing lives, businesses, and even their livelihoods. That's the last thing we want to see.
Siyabonga, the KwaZulu Natal government's calling on President Cyril Ramaphosa to set in the SANDF. But I want to ask from your perspective, how much of a cooperation is there needed with the KwaZulu Natal provincial government in order to make sure that, okay, once obviously this inclement weather has been done, that things, for example, like shelter and food and the basic human rights are provided for the citizens, especially after this torrid time?
I've been there since day one, and as we are interacting with people, people are struggling even to hold tears. There was one incident where we were trying to speak to one lady. We were trying to ask her what happened. She couldn't even tell. She couldn't even talk to us. It's like she wasn't there. So there is quite a lot of trauma that people are experiencing right now, or they are going through right now. But also, I think initially the first intervention that is needed the most, it is provision of shelter first, or permanent solutions in terms of building their houses first. The issues of psychosocial support, because psychosocial support, I think it would be an ongoing support that would be going to the people. So it's great that SANDF has been mobilized to come in. Actually, yesterday, some of them, we were with them field already. So it's great that we are seeing that. But also, we are hoping it goes hand in hand with having shelters, also at the same time, the social support, just as we also will be providing. We do have a team of psychologists, and also as we are providing food and other relief items, but primarily I appeal for support with shelter. And we are even appealing to the public, because if you can build a house for one person, you have repeated, you have fastened the process of people getting back into their lives. Like yesterday, there are 5 people, there are 6 lives that were lost. And all of those families, imagine they are preparing and planning for funerals, yet they are homeless at the time. So if we can contribute as the public, as the communities, contribute, build houses for these people, I think that would bring in a lot of relief for them.
And that brings me to the next question, Siyabonga, because the building of houses definitely, I think, alleviates many of the problems that are happening there. But KwaZulu Natal right now, of course, with global warming, with the weather conditions that we are experiencing, this province is, again, not immune to another massive storm or any floods occurring in the province. From Red Cross's perspective, how much assistance would you guys need in order to make sure that, let's just say this happens again, that there is even more better preparations for the people living in these affected areas?
I think what we need here is long-term plans that actually would be focusing on alleviating poverty first. What needs to be addressed is poverty, and also empowerment in terms of proper building structures, and in a way getting rid or away from the informal settlements, because the informal settlements mostly are the people that are mostly vulnerable to these disasters. So a long-term plan that will ensure that people actually are building in the formal settlements, of which there's proper planning for building, and all protocols and prescriptions are followed. That way, the impact of these natural hazards, because these are natural hazards of which we cannot control them. But if we can control where people are staying, how are they building properly, that would minimize the impact of these natural hazards. So we need plans and long-term projects that will ensure that people are empowered, communities are empowered. We ensure that better building plans are in place, monitored and supported, and communities are also empowered to monitor these projects on their own without us being there in those communities, but they ensure themselves that they do comply. I always say that, for an example, the issue of the fires in the informal settlements.
Yeah.
one house burns and then it spreads to 100 houses because they are very close to each other. If we can ensure that maybe at least they are about maybe 5 meters apart, that would make a difference. That would minimize the risk of the fire spreading. But now, us being the Red Cross or any other institution, we are not there in those communities. But if maybe we can mobilize maybe committees within the communities, train them, capacitate them, and they are the ones that will be responsible for ensuring that they comply with these maybe standards that we'll be placing in place to ensure even if the fire, even if one house catches fire, but it does not spread to the others. That way, the impact is always going to be minimal. One day, we'll go to and respond to shack fires where it's only one shack that is burned. But we have not seen that so far, simply because of how everything is built. From where they are, if we are to have heavy rains tomorrow and floods tomorrow, they are at a high risk of getting washed away being flooded. That way, now, as they are getting flooded and washed away, we are going to lose lives. It's going to be damage to people's belonging and all of that. So then the impact is always going to be severe. So in a way, there is a need really to empower communities and invest into communities.
Siyabonga, all the best for the work that you are doing, mate. I know that you guys really do need that luck as you tackle, of course, a very difficult situation in KwaZulu Natal. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much.
That's Siyabonga Hlatswayo. He is from the KwaZulu Natal Red Cross Society. After the break, the avian flu is really taking such a heavy toll on the chicken and egg situation. The poultry industry continues to be hit hard. We're going to be speaking to Jonathan Katz. He's from Huber International. What is the way forward? I think we know that the prices of chickens and eggs have gone quite up significantly. But what is the plan going forward from the stakeholders and, of course, government? Do stay tuned to that conversation.